continue to what we talk about the methodological implication, and we are going to do a summary of paradigm research approaches. So this session will be more like a summary of what we have told and then open up for our next chapter about the methodology part and the method area. So this, based on what we talked for our last session about ontology, epistemology perspective, here is an organized information. So based on the epistemology, they have a different kind of a theory, such as objectivism, constructionism, subjectivism. Within the epistemology, they also have a theoretical perspective in which they have all kind of theoretical approach, which is positivism, interpretism, critical inquiry, feminism, postmodernism, etc., etc., etc. There are so many type of theoretical perspective. We are not going to go through every single philosophy here, but this is a kind of information for you to think about which theoretical perspective, and also you may be interested to look into different theoretical perspective. Here is just some information for you, but I also will provide another information in the following slides. So underneath the theoretical perspective, we go further about the methodology. The methodology involved is so many types, relate to experimental survey, ethnography, phenomenological research, ground theory, heuristics, inquiry, action research, discourse analysis. Some of them would be to do with like a positivism. Some of them could be to do with interpretism. Some of them could be under the critical inquiry or may relate to the critical realism and all sorts of things. So here I will not go further, but in our following chapters, when we will talk about the methods, then we will elaborate bit more how the theory relate to the method, but we were not going to go for the detail from these parts. So then with the methodology, we would continue to look into the method. So the method, as I mentioned, some was statistical, but here we also need to think about how we do sampling and what is a statistical analysis, how can we do analysis, what are the questionnaire design, how to design questionnaire, how to do qualitative questionnaire and quantitative questionnaire, and how we perform observation and how do we conduct interview, the method of interview, how do we perform a focus group not as a lead, but also how to encourage the participant to make a conversation without too much intervene, and document analysis and content analysis, etc. But all the methods also have a two domain. One is to do with how much we engaged in this method and how much we detach ourselves from conducting this method. As an interview, if you do interview as an interviewer, it becomes inevitable that you will be part of the method because you're conducting. But as you perform questionnaire, you probably just submit your questionnaire online or go through certain platform or go through some institution that they perform the questionnaire on your behalf, and then you probably detach from what you are doing your data through the method. So therefore, we have so-called engagement of researcher within the research context is how much you are independent as a detached form, and then how can we be also engaged to stimulate our participants their discussion. So there are kind of two different parts. One is about being detached, and so people can be neutral but some people may need to be part of it to stimulate the process. As we continue with the mapping research paradigm, and they are all different kind of process, like our last time mentioned about positivism and the social constructionism, and we start to put in the researcher as detached role or engaged role. So they are also suggesting different theoretical perspective, and I will not to go through every single detail about that, but this is some information again to help you to look into, if you consider you are the person, you don't like to engage with your participant, is to do with the data design, the method design, you consider engage may not a right approach. You need to be detached, and this would be a certain approach for you. But if you go for detached, you can also think about, are you going for scientific approach that using more positivism, that can be using experiments or certain survey the questionnaire can do, or you are detached, but it's also social constructionism in terms of it would be certain way you through the observation, you probably not engage in the process, but you still able to access the information you need. Sometimes observation like using the video recording and analyze people like a text base, like some people analyze the email or press releases from the multinational company, and they analyze it in terms of the detached approach, but still involved. And so there are different approach, and sometimes you're engaging and you are going through constructionism, then you have a different approach, etc., etc. So as I mentioned, it's not going to explain in every single detail regarding to different theoretical perspective, but we will incorporate them when we come to the methods part. But I give you a simple conclusion and a selecting research approach and a strategy. So that is some idea for you to consider. So based on what we mentioned about, epistemology, we have some objectivism, we have constructionism, then we have some subjectivism. So this could be from the positivism in the epistemology, start to further, and then as a subjectivism, you can relate to the interpretism. So how you interpret information, it could be interpreted differently by the researcher because they engage, maybe they see more rather than they detach and something missing. And the approach of research can using deductive under this objectivism, positivism, and an inductive way of using fragmental information further developed to induce certain idea, and then in the induction. So the further study could continue. So the constructivism can consider case study or action research, and objectivism, especially positivism, generally go for experiments or survey. The subjectivism or interpretism could be using this grounded theory, ethnography, heuristic inquiry, and the study in this domain. The time frame we mentioned about cross-sectional and longitudinal. So one is to go for longitudinal, you have a time frame to do. The other is through the same group of samples you conduct, and using the same group you can control the same group. So what you observe, what you interpret, and it can be grouped under the same domain. And then the data collection method, they have also data collection method in terms of sampling, or you can using secondary data, maybe from the government, from the institution, or through observation or interview, or still perform questionnaire, and could be open, semi-constructed or non-constructed or very restricted questionnaire, and or some other measurements involved. So this is something is more like a summary and of the different philosophical stance and the research paradigm incorporate the follow-up chapter relate to the research method.